Okay, so let's dive into one of the most fascinating tensions in modern India. It's this huge paradox. You've got a nation that's overwhelmingly young, but it's being governed by the old. And this isn't just some interesting factoid, it's shaping pretty much everything about the future of the world's biggest democracy. To really get a handle on India today, you have to start with its people. I mean, the country has this incredible demographic advantage. A massive chunk of its population is young, they're ambitious, and they're more connected than ever before. This is a powerful engine for growth and for change. But here's where the paradox really hits you. While the country is buzzing with all this youthful energy, the halls of power have never been older. We're talking about the 18th Lok Sabha, the lower house of parliament, being literally the oldest in the nation's history. That creates this massive gap between the people being governed and the people doing the governing. So you have to ask, right? Why is a country with one of the youngest populations on Earth being led by an older and older political class? Well, it turns out there's some pretty big barriers that are keeping the old guard in charge and essentially locking a whole new generation out of the system.
And the data here tells a really clear story. Just look at the trend. The number of new, first-time MPs making it into parliament is dropping, and it's been dropping for a while. At the same time, the percentage of politicians who are sticking around for more than 2 terms, that shot way up. It shows a real shift towards a political class that's more entrenched and experienced.
And yeah, this isn't happening by accident. There are some powerful forces at work here. For one, if you're already in office, you have a huge advantage. You get reelected more than half the time. Then there's political nepotism. It's a big deal. A lot of the younger faces you do see come from powerful families. On top of that, you got cultural norms where seniority is often seen as wisdom. And the rules themselves create a hurdle. You can vote at 18, but you can't even stand for election until you're 25. So, if young people are getting squeezed out of traditional politics, where does all that incredible energy and passion go? It doesn't just vanish. A new generation is finding totally different ways to get organized, to mobilize, and to make sure their voices are heard, even if it's not inside the walls of Parliament. They're building power right where they are. We're talking about university campuses, online forums, and all across social media. These spaces have become the new battlegrounds for political expression, and they're completely changing what activism even looks like in the 21st century. And researchers have a really useful way of looking at this. They see 2 main types of activism. First, you have what they call natural communities. These groups tend to work within the system, focusing on things like campus issues. But then you have political communities, and they're all about challenging the system itself. They're pushing for big, transformative ideas and creating spaces where totally new movements can take root and grow. So what's the rocket fuel behind all this mobilization? It's technology. It's as simple as that. The fact that cheap smartphones and affordable data are everywhere has completely changed the game. It allows for instant coordination among millions of people, turning what might have been an individual complaint into a massive, collective movement almost overnight. And we're not talking about some small niche group of activists here. Smartphone use in India is over 80%. That means the tools for this kind of digital-first organizing are in the hands of the vast majority of people, including, of course, that huge youth population.
And what's really important to see is that this isn't just an Indian phenomenon. It's part of a much bigger story playing out across the region. Just look at its neighbors. In Sri Lanka, youth protests brought down a government. In Bangladesh and Nepal, digitally organized movements led to the fall of leaders who'd be in power for ages. There's a generational wave that is reshaping politics all across South Asia.
So how's the old guard, the establishment, reacting to this tech-savvy generation? Well, they're not just sitting back and watching. We're actually seeing some major efforts to engage with this youthful energy, and often they're using the very same digital tools that young people have mastered. A perfect example of this is in education. The Indian government has poured a ton of resources into platforms like Diksha, which is a digital learning portal. And the engagement is just staggering. We're talking billions of page hits and learning sessions. It's a very clear strategy to meet young people exactly where they are, online. But it's not just about digital tools. The government is also trying to reform what education is all about. The national education policy is all about moving away from just memorizing facts and instead building skills like critical thinking and problem solving. It's a direct attempt to prepare the next generation for the modern world, and in doing so, shape how they think and engage with everything. So when you put all of this together, the aging politicians, the mobilized youth, the institutional response, you get this setup for the fundamental conflict that is going to define where India goes next. You've got a nation being pulled in 2 very different directions by 2 very different forces.
And I mean, the divide is just so clear. On one side, you've got India's youth.
They're digital natives, super connected, and they're organizing to demand a better future. And on the other side, you've got a power structure that's older than ever, that favors the way things are, and that tends to respond with reforms from the top down. The friction between these two worlds is something you can really feel.
Which leaves us with the big, critical question at the end of all this. India is truly at a crossroads. Is all of this immense, digitally powered youthful energy going to have to reshape democracy from the outside, through protests and pressure? Or can the system change fast enough to open its doors and actually bring this new generation inside? The answer to that question is going to decide India's path for decades to come.